Hi, welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. I'm your host, Brian Koval. Before we get started, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you want to see me play your favorite deck or your spicy brew on the channel, I take donation deck lists. I'll do a deck tech, play a full Magic Online League, and help tune your list. If that sounds good, check out my contact info. It's in the video description below. Now let's go play some Magic. Welcome to another BoshNRoll video. Today I am playing Legacy Reanimator at the request of Chris on Patreon. Remember, if you want me to play your decks or you want to get in the channel Discord, talk about Magic, whatever, I'm in there. Check out the Patreon link in the video description below. Chris, already a patron, has me playing Reanimator, and Chris sent me the idea to play Reanimator before Modern Horizons 2 came out. There is a bit of a lag between when I get the suggestions and when I actually record them, and now Modern Horizons 2 is out. Endurance is just a main deck legacy card in a lot of the decks. The Bant control decks are just built around like 4 Force of Will, 1 or 2 Force of Negation, plus 3 Endurance. So we are in the business of making them have it in this league because we are still playing Turbo Black-Red Reanimator. If you're not familiar with this deck, the whole plan is to put Griselbrand into play on turn 1. So we got fast mana in Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal, on top of free spells in the form of Grief. This is a recent upgrade from Unmask. And upgrade isn't necessarily a firm description because Unmask you can target yourself, which occasionally matters in this matchup because you need to get a creature in the graveyard, even if it requires 3-for-1ing yourself to do it. Sometimes that is the right play. Grief, you have to choose target opponent to reveal their hand and discard a card. However, Grief is a creature on its own, and it costs 4, which is pretty castable. So, Grief gives you this sort of main deck plan or that could reasonably beat down an opponent who keeps like mono Rest in Peace and no other action, and boards out their Swords to Plowshares. So, there's some give and take on Grief. I'm excited to try it. It's Heroes of 4 of, Unmask is out of the deck. But you have Grief as a free way to check your opponent's hand, or a 0 mana way to check your opponent's hand, see if they have any interaction. Chancellor of the Annex also makes it really hard to interact on turn 1. It makes them have 2 ways to interact because they have to throw 1 Force of Will into your Mana Tithe bubble, and the next one actually gets to counter a spell. And Thoughtseize is a cheap way to work through your extra mana. And basically, the nut draw is Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize them, then Entomb and Reanimate Griselbrand. And there's a bunch of different versions of that. There's like Faithless Looting Entomb, or not Entomb, Faithless Looting Reanimate, or just Dark Ritual, Entomb, Exhume. So the plan, it's pretty clear. I don't need to describe every possible combination of how to spend 3 mana in the deck, but the idea is to put Griselbrand into play on turn 1. We're going to be leaning hard on the London Mulligan to make sure that this happens. And that's basically the whole deck. There's going to be some decision making on like maybe Griselbrand isn't the right monster in this spot. Archon of Cruelty gives us a really sweet non-legendary creature to search for against decks like Death and Taxes that just have 3 Karakas in their main deck. So this is the deck. The sideboard is just a bunch of anti-hate. Reverend Silence destroys all enchantments. Xantid Swarm stops counterspells. Iona turns off decks that are monocolor like Death and Taxes or Elves, etc. Burn. Elish Norn wipes out creature decks like Elves. This is better than Iona against Elves, for the record, if you're going to get one or the other. But Elish Norn wipes out creature decks. Serenity is just another way to destroy all artifacts and enchantments, because those are what most hate pieces are. And that's the deck. It's pretty simple stuff. Let's see if we can make it work in this post-endurance world. I am on the play with an Entomb Reanimate hand. It's not turn 1, but it is end step, then untap and reanimate, which could be too slow or could be great. It doesn't have any protection, and 4 is a whole lot of lands, but I think I keep this. Like on the draw, maybe it's too slow, but on the play, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm going to lead on my Polluted Delta because that's the one that pretends I'm doing something a little more fair. So I could play around Daze by entombing now. I think I'm going to do that. That gives them information, but losing my spell to a Daze is just so much worse. So Griselbrand goes straight into the bin. Here we go. Alright, Delver. So they must have a backup spell. I'm gonna reanimate first because that plays around days, and then I can play around days and force on the following turn with my Exhume. Or Griselbrand just comes into play. That's cool too. All right, let's go. Going to 4 may have been a mistake, but generally, oh, that was also a huge just whiff. If they just bolt me, I'm gonna lose. But I forgot I lose 8 life when I cast the spell. But generally, when you Griselbrand, you want to activate it right away and put a second monster into play, which if they just bolt me here, I'm gonna deserve every fucking second of this. Oh my god. I just got so excited and smashed Griselbrand. So good start to this league. Let's redeem that in game 2. Of all of the meme nonsense that I have fired in on this channel, that has to be among the worst of them. Because I don't think Blue Red Delver can beat just a 7/7 lifelink. Certainly not in game 1. Wow. I'm sorry, Chris. Okay, so Xanted Swarm, I think, is the hate card I want here. Elish Norn, I think, is something that I want as well. I think that there's a possibility that they've gone too wide at some point, and Griselbrand, like, if the game gets to a longer point, that might be too slow. So Xanted Swarm, what do I cut? Is it one of the Griselbrands? Because, like, I can tutor for them in general. In obviously the Faithless Looting, it dilutes Faithless Looting a bit, but I think it's okay. And I'm on the play, which affects how reactive I want to be. So maybe I don't want all my Xanted Swarms on the play. Though Xanted Swarm is sweet in this deck, because even if they kill it, you can reanimate it and just check their stuff multiple turns in a row. Remember that time I went to 4 and just got double bolted? Anyway. Alright, Xanted Swarm, and do I need all 4 Griefs? You know, I think on the play I just want to ram discard spells. Alright, I have all my fast mana and all my disruption in. That's what I think I'm going to go with. Also, leading on Xanted Swarm against the Wasteland deck doesn't feel great. Okay, so I have Entomb and Exhume, but no second land. I am going to keep this, though. Reveal Chancellor. So I can cast the Xanted Swarm, which I know is going to resolve because of their... Or I could also Thoughtseize them. So setting up Entomb, Exhume, I feel like I want the Xanted Swarm in play. This exposes me to Wasteland in a way I don't love. Great. Yep. Let's just draw some swamps and not worry about it. Nice. I did it. Okay. In trouble. In a lot of trouble. So I'll be honest with the watchers right now. I am strongly considering dropping this league and just restarting another one. And, like, none of this happened. But I think I'm going to be honest with all of you and just show you some of the pitfalls and mistakes that, like, the purpose of my channel is always education. So do I just let this ride, or do I put it in the bin? I'm going to let it ride. Please enjoy this. So they've sculpted a hand that now involves Delver. Need a swamp. Still no love, but I do get to go to discard here. Get to go to discard. You like the sound of that? I'm going to discard the Archon of Cruelty. And I don't even have Reanimate, so it's not like this does anything. Though Xanted Swarm is still a big problem. They haven't answered it yet. But I do desperately need a swamp. They get to attack with Delver. I am not going to block, and I think they know that. They have Ragavan. Okay, they can start stealing my Griselbrands. Oh, we might be in business, but mostly not. If they have another Wasteland, we're out of business. But I can Thoughtseize them. See what you're working with. Multiple force. Oh, I'm taking that Bone Crusher Giant. The rest of this hand does not answer what I'm doing, so I can actually still win this game somehow. Delver didn't flip, so they either drew a creature or a land, and I hope that land wasn't Wasteland. So Rag gets to flip something. If they take a Reanimate, they can get my Archon. That's scary. Alright, so I need to draw a land right now, or a Dark Ritual, and I can actually still do this. Count it. I'm generally pretty chill because I play a lot of Magic, and I take my bad beats as they come, but I will not lie to you that I will tell you that my heartbeat is way up after this match. Like, the way that I just threw away game 1 and how stressful this game 2 has been, like, this has been quite a ride, and I feel like I don't deserve to be in the ahead position I'm currently in, but I'm gonna take it. Thank you, Xantid Swarm, for carrying this one for me, that I did my very best to punt. So they have a Murktide Regent. That's a 5/5. That's smaller than my creature. So I can attack again and cruelty them again. I don't think I even want to cast this Faithless Looting in my hand. I guess if they have Lightning Bolt here, they can trade off with my Archon. But then I'll need to... Oh, okay. They just made a 5/5 just to put it in the graveyard instead of Ragavan. Alright, Faithless Looting will probably get dazed here. Oh, nope, they just F6'd. I'll take that too. Alright, Chancellor's in the graveyard. Basic Swamp. I'm gonna pass. I don't need to Thoughtseize them because I have Xantid Swarm in play. It is awkward that they could reanimate one of my creatures, but I'm gonna let them have it. Alright, they missed. It has to be reanimate, or it had to be exactly animate dead, because Exhume is better for me, and reanimate kills them, so animate dead was the only one that they could actually get a creature. Alright, I got away with that one. And they had the Wasteland for the Bayou, but Xantid Swarm carried that game 100% by itself. Did you see their hand when I Thoughtseized them? It was just like 3 forces in a daze. So I'm gonna show that some respect and need the Chancellors. The Archon was great. I think I want the Faithless Looting, just the card selection matters so much, but at the same time, I would have to start cutting griefs to do it, which I feel like getting the discard, getting that interaction is more important than almost anything else I can be doing. I think I'm going to cut in Exhume. There we go. Yeah, that's the 2-mana one. It's the one I have the least control over. It's the one that can help them, but it's also the better one to get stolen off Ragavan. I don't know. The game is hard. Alright, so I can Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize, Entomb. I'm going to keep this. If they daze my Dark Ritual, that's kind of shitty. Or I could Thoughtseize them first, then I don't care if they daze that. And then I can Dark Ritual, Entomb, Animate next turn. Here's Chancellor right on time. Would have been nice to have that one in the opener. Alright, so they spent their days on Thoughtseize. So if I draw a land, I can do the Thoughtseize, Ritual, Entomb, Animate plan all this turn. So we're looking for that mana source right now. Land. Okay, now I can do everything. Dark Ritual. Maybe I should have stayed slow and steady. Alright, that resolved. I'll take it. How thick is their hand? So they have 2 forces. They have 2 forces and Brainstorm. So I want to take the Brainstorm because they're going to get to force me either way here. And I want their hand to be out of forces when they do that. So this is the one that they want to force. Yeah, by taking out the Entomb, you effectively counter the Animate and the Reanimate and Animate Dead in my hand as well. So that was the correct pressure point. Now I need to find another Entomb. They found Expressive Iteration. Okay, but that doesn't matter. So their hand is Bonecrusher, Giant, Expressive Iteration right now, and we're on the beatdowns from Delver. So Grief is actually a good draw here. Right, now we're on the beatdowns. Yeah, I think that was our turn to make it happen. Yeah, they just stomp me in the end step. They can play a 4-3 if they draw a land, and then I go to 8 and in a lot of trouble. Oh, Grief. That is the card that I said I wanted. Is that even true anymore? Because I wanted it last turn when I could take Bonecrusher Giant and then reanimate it, but it doesn't answer the Delver in play. This would be a time where Unmask actually is really good, but because it's Grief, we have no plan. Yeah, if this is Unmask, I put Elish Norn in the graveyard, reanimate it, and maybe I win, maybe I lose. Well, I go to 1, so that's dangerous either way. I guess I just have to wait and hope something else comes together. This match brought to you by me being stupid in game 1, though, because this match could have been a 2-0 sweep, but instead here we are trying to figure out how to make this work in game 3 when it's not going to work, and I know it's not going to work. Yep, alright. Beat by my own foolishness. The game 3, that was one they were going to win. They had enough counter spells to beat double Thoughtseize, and I just needed to win the game where I literally put Griselbrand into play and then lost on the spot. So that one was on me. Game 3 was pretty reasonable. Game 1 was not. On to the next round. I'm on the play for game number 2, and I have Entomb Reanimate with Chancellor backup. I'm going to keep it. Actually, do I lead on Faithless Looting? That opens me up to Wasteland a little bit, but if they waste me, it sets them back a turn on popping the Chancellor bubble. So actually I'm going to Faithless Looting, because I can Entomb Reanimate all at once. Might as well sculpt a little bit along the way. So Chancellor, I could also just put Chancellor into play right now. That sounds pretty good. Some decks can beat that pretty easily, others can't beat that at all. And we're about to find out which one I'm playing against. Alright, reanimate my Chancellor. Chancellor's in play now. So they still have to get through the Chancellor bubble, plus the actual Chancellor forever. Maze of Ith, oh no, oh no! We're playing against a deck that can easily beat this, it turns out. Alright, how do I beat this now? Archon of Cruelty, Griselbrand are probably involved. I'm gonna play my Scrubland and pass the turn. No, I probably need to Faithless Looting. So I have this Entomb. I want to find ways to bring it back. Okay, so I can discard these two and then Entomb Reanimate Griselbrand and try to do more stuff next turn. If they have Wasteland, it doesn't really matter. Oh, is this some like shitty like Curse Stompy deck instead of an actual lands deck? That would be great. Okay, Entomb. Oh, I can get the Archon, which exiles Maze of Ith, and then I just bash them twice. Or I can get Griselbrand, just have 2 monsters in play. Is it Ashen Rider time? Or is it Archon time? Or is it just Griselbrand time? Alright, I'm getting Griselbrand. So if they have Caracas, that's really bad. They're on a 3-turn clock to this. Oh, I am casting Reanimate. So I think I want Griselbrand. That puts me to 4, so I will not quickly activate Griselbrand this time. I go to 4 life. And then I can start beating them down next turn. Griselbrand doesn't actually gain any life because of Maze of Ith. So then I should have just got Ashen Rider. This deck is harder than it needs to be right now, because I'm making it harder than it needs to be. We got land go out of the opponent. They still haven't popped the initial Chancellor bubble, so their first spell is going to cost 2 more. And then their all their subsequent spells will cost an additional 1. I can flashback Faithless Looting this turn and get Ashen Rider into the bin, which is my best plan to win this game. Wish I had thought of it a turn ago. Alright, so Fatal Push, that gets countered. But they knew that. It wasn't going to do anything anyway. So they could do something like Ensnaring Bridge, I guess, on their next turn. But I'm going to flashback Faithless Looting. Drawing the Archon might turn out to be a really good thing for me. Am I going to need to entomb anything, or am I going to need mana? I guess I could entomb another Faithless Looting, at the very least. So there's land number 3. And Bitter Blossom. That's pretty good. Wow. Turn 1 Chancerly Annex. Not very good against mono black control with Maze of Ith, it turns out. Thoughtseize is not a card I want. I'm going to Faithless Looting pre-combat. I think there are cards I can draw that... Okay, so Grief, or do I want Entomb? Hardcasting Grief could be part of my plan. So entombing another Faithless Looting still sounds pretty good. I'm definitely not casting Thoughtseize this game. Grief's Menace is pretty good. I'm going to discard the Thoughtseize and the Dark Ritual. So that way, that makes a land into a reasonable draw. And also, non-lands are reasonable draws. Get it either way. So they're at 9. They're dead in 9 turns to their Thoughtseize, if nothing else happens along the way. Oh, Mishra's Factory. Gotta be careful. They might be able to like dance around with Maze of Ith and kill me with that and a couple fairy tokens. Liliana of the Veil, are you kidding? Stop! Oh no! Oh no! Okay, so I'm gonna sacrifice Chancellor. And Griselbrand is still the better one if I hit one of my outs this turn. So there's the land. I can fetch, cast Grief. I lose the Entomb Forever if I take that plan, but plussing might be dangerous anyway. Alright. I'm going to attack, and then I'm going to cast Grief. Attacking my opponent. Doesn't matter who I attack, they're going to Maze of Ith it anyway. Well, you're all getting your money's worth. If you were worried that this would just be like a quick league, don't worry anymore. Well, Grief does have Menace. It is a 3/2 creature. Oh my god. You have a Fistful of Opposition Agents, Dark Confidant, and Jitte. I don't think I need to worry about Jitte because they're not going to be attacking ever. Opposition Agent makes this Entomb pretty bad though. Yeah, so this is like black Stompy of some kind, and they just had their Miser's Maze of Ith right in the main deck, in their hand. Each player discards a card. Yep. My Entomb's gone. Wasn't casting that one. Their Confidant is gone. The Grief gives me a barrier against Liliana of the Veil. I guess they could throw a fairy into Griselbrand and then use the tokens to clear Grief, then clear Griselbrand on the following turn. That seems insane, though. Like, genuinely batshit crazy. I hope they do it, but it's crazy. Alright, deck, how about Animate Dead? That's not the right one. I could get their Dark Confidant. So if I attack with both of my creatures, they have to Maze of Ith Griselbrand, so I don't have to worry about that too much. They can double block Grief, which actually ends the game, because then Liliana can minus. So I actually just can't do anything here. Nice. I can attack with Griselbrand, which lets me... I guess if they have some sort of like... No, they're just going to activate Maze. Alright. I'm going to attack Liliana. Though, no. No. If they just chump with Fairy Rogue... No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to attack Liliana. If they chump with Fairy Rogue and give me 7 life to refill my hand, then they lose that game every time. So, here we are. This Reanimate was so close to the card I wanted to draw. Continuing to bleed out. If they draw an Edict at any point, I lose. Each player discards. They didn't find what they wanted. Opposition Agent is still the only card in their hand. Still trying to draw Animate Dead or Exhume. Both are fine. Come on now, deck. Animate Dead. That's not it. Attack Liliana again. They're going to Maze of Ith again. And I guess I should play my land. Or are they just going to minus Liliana? I'm going to hold on to the land. There's... Am I just dead to combat? I am just dead to combat, right? Maze of Ith. Prevent all combat chambers about 2 and by that creature. So they just attack. They minus Liliana, kill Grief, attack with all their creatures, maze whatever I block with Griselbrand, and I'm dead on board. They didn't take that line this turn, so they can put me to 2 with attacks. Or put me to 1, they can deal 2. Oh, Mishra's Factory was actually lethal. They missed lethal. Please, deck, pay me out with the Animate Dead. We are losing this game because my opponent just had their Maze of Ith in their opening hand. There was a different play I could make. The line did exist where I could have played, I could have just skipped the turn 1 Chancellor and gone for a turn 2 Griselbrand. But against most normal decks, like, that's good enough, right? Alright, so I have to beat Surgical Extraction this game. Alright, Iona on black seems pretty good in this matchup. Can shave on a Griselbrand because Surgical Extraction is going to be their main weapon anyway. Xantid Swarm does pad against Edicts and it plays against Surgical. Like, I would attack with Xantid Swarm and then do everything at once. A Grief was not great. And what else? Maybe I only want 2 Xantid Swarms. I feel like that's probably a mistake. Like, I either want that card or I don't. Probably wanted that Pithing Needle too, but I've already clicked submit. This deck's a lot harder than it looks. There's a lot of small things going on. When you lose to this deck, you're just like, wow, nice brainless turn 1. But your opponent probably does actually have a brain. Right, I'm going to keep this. This has a turn 2, whatever I want. It's pretty soft to Wasteland, but whatever. I guess I lead on the Scrubland for that reason. And chip it. Alright. If they have, like, it's hard to have any turn 1 play here. Like, whatever they do just gets countered. Right, yeah, those are gone. So they can Surgical Extraction me. So I'm gonna Entomb. I'll get the Griselbrand to at least make the play. Dark Ritual's a good draw. Let's find that. That was a terrible draw. So I can spend a turn Thought Seizing them. That at least keeps the Animate Dead in my hand. If they do have the Surgical. Oh, I lose the Thought Seize instead. Sudden Edict is pretty good. Actually, this isn't that bad. So I take the Thought Seize, play Badlands, pass the turn. So I get to draw 7 with Griselbrand. I get priority before they can cast their Sudden Edict. So I do get to at least reload. And Griselbrand. Just have to make sure not to pass priority once Griselbrand's in play. Right, so that triggers. When this trigger resolves, I have Griselbrand. Immediately pay 7. They Edict in response. That's fine. It did its job. Sacrifice this one. Hopefully we find some fast mana or free spells here to just go again. No fast mana yet, but I can Faithless Looting here. Another Entomb, 2 Exhumes. So I'm going to discard Chancellor and second Griselbrand. And then I'm going to discard 2 of these lands. Or no, I'm going to discard the Chancellor and land. Is there any reason to keep 1 Chancellor in my hand? I guess if they have like Tormod's Crypt, that's a reason to do that. Maybe that's a reason to keep a Griselbrand in my hand too. But the double Exhume is a reason to put the second Griselbrand in. Right, each player discards a card. I have enough lands here. Discarded their Urborg. So they have Murderous Rider and 1 unknown in their hand. It would have to be pretty good. Okay, so Exhume, they don't have any creatures in their graveyard, so I'm gonna Exhume first. Get back Chancellor. That makes sure my second Exhume works. Exhume again. This one's gonna get the Griselbrand. And they can minus Liliana to... Alright, so I guess we'll see if they have a land to discard. Or a land to play. Alright, so they had their land drop. So they can kill both my creatures either way. Do I want to go to 3 and draw 7 more? Yeah, probably. Alright, so I am actually going to sacrifice Griselbrand, because I want them to have to pay more mana for their Murderous Rider, or their Swift End, whatever this card is called. Because they get both of them either way. And this hurts their mana. Yep. Hopefully that denied them a Thoughtseize or something they actually wanted. Now I don't know anything about their hand anymore. I want to put this Archon of Cruelty into play. So I want to lead on... Oh, I only have one thing to do. So I guess I Faithless Looting first. I need another way that doesn't cost life, but I just don't get one. Okay. Sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Got him. Okay, so discard Archon and reanimate, I think. Then animate dead, target the Archon. So they have to discard or sacrifice Liliana. I gain 3 life and draw a card. Found another looting. That's probably pretty good to do. Loot. I found a dark ritual, so I can discard 2 lands. And can I cast Grief? Do I have another land in my deck? Oh, they have Urborg in play, doesn't matter. So dark ritual, Lotus Petal, and hardcast Grief. That plays around a top deck Edict. Okay, yep. They were already hellbent. But here we go. Now they can't draw an Edict. Caracas doesn't work. Maze of Ith doesn't work because this triggers on attack. I feel like this matchup's been a lot harder than it needs to be. Either that or the mono Edict deck, and mono discard mono Edict deck is exactly the type of matchup that should be hard for Reanimator. Alright. Got the W. So we saw discard spells and edicts seem to be their way to win. Alright, Pithing Needle is coming in. I do want that card. Grief, I just don't think is where I want to be at all. Xanted Swarm, I do like how Xanted Swarm pads against edicts. Like, the spell business is largely not that important to me, but that does matter. Do I need all of my dark rituals? Like, if we're slowing down because I should expect discard spells, maybe that makes some sense. Maybe it makes no sense at all. It's hard to be sure. But this is what I'm doing. Alright, Needle's in, Dark Ritual's out. Maybe I'm just supposed to always cut Lotus Petal before I cut Dark Ritual. Or maybe I just had a thought that is too late. Maybe they're a Leyline of the Void deck. That should have been the first thought I had at every point. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm 2 mana away from casting Griselbrand on turn 1, but this is a mulligan. This is a keep. And I want to send the basic swamp, I think. They didn't have Leyline. That's good news. So I can take a multi-turn line. I think I want to use the Swarm to play around both edicts and exile spells. Like, I could just turbo out the turn 2, but the type of interaction their deck has just makes me not want to do that. Not in a hurry for it. So they're fetching... Hymn to Turok's really dangerous. Dauthi Voidwalker, that's not dangerous at all. That kills me basically outright. Shit. I was not ready for that. Maybe I should have been, but I was not. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna have to Thoughtseize something out of their hand and reanimate it to win this game. Opposition Agent, Dauthi Voidwalker, Murderous Rider. And they have Wasteland too, Jesus. Alright, and if this Griselbrand gets discarded at any point, they get a Griselbrand. So, life is hard right now. And Reanimating Murderous Rider doesn't kill their Dauthi Voidwalker. Though it does let whatever creature I reanimate live, which is not currently going to happen. Wow, I am so dead to Dauthi Voidwalker. Is there even a plan for this in the sideboard? There's not. Like, this deck is not ready for Voidwalker. I guess the plan is win first. which I can't currently do. So I think I have to take the second Voidwalker. Like, I guess, like, trick them into activating the first one and then win somehow after that. But I'm gonna have to loot. This is rough. I'm gonna discard Entomb. They can have that if they want. And I guess I discard a Grief. And then pass the turn. Wow. And Wasteland just takes me right out here too, on top of everything else being horrible. If they didn't play the Wasteland, they are on they're on team opposition agent for some reason. I would have wasted this so fast. Alright, so they are doing something right now. Opposition agent, you got it. It's in play now. Good job. Oh, now they're going to have a hard time deciding what land they want to remove forever. Guess I can attack just in case they have something. I know 2 of their 3 cards in hand, but don't want to lose to the other one. So I can animate dead, the Voidwalker, and I can block their Voidwalker in combat. Guess that's a line. But not if they Murderous Rider it. And they can cast Grief from out of the game at any point. Alright. They put that on opposition agent and I can't win. Okay. Yeah, because Shadow can't block the agent. They attack with that. Yeah, alright, yeah. Dauthi Voidwalker, absolutely crushing. Wasn't ready for that one. I talked about Endurance in the deck tech, but Dauthi Voidwalker was a non-starter on that match. Jeez. I won the die roll again. I've been pretty good at that. This hand's a mulligan, though. Not a single land in it. This hand is a turn 1 Griselbrand. Just gotta hope they don't have it. I am gonna make my move on turn 1. That's what we're here to do. Just play the numbers that they are. Not a blue deck or didn't keep a 0 mana interaction. But yeah, Thoughtseize me, take Griselbrand, Lotus Petal, Reanimate. Gonna keep the 6. Send Bayou to the bottom because there are no green cards in the main deck. And hope that their hand is bad. Or just doesn't interact with me. Thoughtseize myself. Really wish I had Chancellor's back up here. They're either shitting their pants or pumping their fist right now, and there is nothing in between. Wow. Count it, count it, count it. Alright, that's the power. I will tell you all, as a blue player who likes Force of Will and basic lands and playing long games and playing around everything, I hated that. I won the game, but I hated it. I hated that moment. Ugh. It's friggin' stressful. So I don't know what I'm playing against, but they do. So, like, Xanted Swarm is just a generically good card, though they kept a 7 that couldn't interact on turn 1 or beat a Griselbrand. So they're not a Caracas deck. And they might be just Delver that didn't keep a 0 cost interaction. I think that's how I'm going to play this. So the Xanted Swarms come in, and Exhume gets a little worse. On the draw is Grief extra important. Like, play draw, what sort of interaction you need is kind of a sticky one here. Would I rather have Grief than Thoughtseize, or are they the same thing? Or, I don't know. I just moved cards around at random for the most part, and now here's a different deck. But it's mostly the same. It has Xanted Swarm in it now. I have the Xanted Swarm. I have a couple of Entombs, and Animate Dead I'm going to keep. Leyline of the Void. Alright. That's a card they have. Good to know. So I'm going to have to animate something out of their graveyard to win this game. Or hardcast my Griselbrand. Are we paired against Curses again? Did we play against the same opponent twice? The named card is Reanimate. Don't have any of those. So we're playing against a Leyline of the Void kind of deck. Ooh, this is actually insane. I can Grief them. Exiling the Griselbrand, that's never going to do anything. Maybe put a creature in their graveyard. Let's get a look. Oh, we're playing against Gak. So I'm not going to put Vengevine in their graveyard for them. So Grief is pretty bad all around here. Yeah, this sucks. I don't want to put any of these in their graveyard. This is not how I'm going to win this game. Okay, so I guess I'll bin the Gravecrawler, because that's the least horrific of all of them for me. Might as well run out the Xantid Swarm. Don't know what I'm entombing for, other than just thinning out my deck. So definitely bringing in the Reverent Silences. So they're not going to have a whole lot of interaction other than ley lines. Crack their Verdant Catacombs. Find a spell. Yep. Sure did. I guess I should play this game out, because if I see them milling a bunch of stuff, that will help me understand what hate they have above and beyond the ley lines. So they're going to take Animate Dead here. Is that the plan? Yep, they took the Animate Dead, which is a shame, because I would have loved to animate Hedron Crab. That's actually a win condition, kind of. Red Source? Nope. Alright, I guess I'm just going to start firing Entombs into my graveyard. Thinning deck out of cards I don't want to draw. Maybe I'm supposed to just bring in Reverent Silence blind. Like, I didn't see anything in their deck, but they saw what I'm doing, and am I supposed to just assume that Leyline of the Void is in the 75? And I think that is a reasonable thing to imagine. So I'm going to exile... I guess I can technically hardcast Griselbrand. Chance of the Annex I don't want at all. Dark Ritual. Alright. Someday. Yeah, no attacks here. I can technically cast Griselbrand and the Archon of Cruelty, Sire of Cruelty, whatever that's called. What is that card actually called? Archon of Cruelty. They discarded their Vengevine and Ridge from Below. I could have blocked that to nuke bridges. Probably should have done that. Whoops. Hey, you're gonna entomb another Chancellor. So Red Source for Faithless Looting is actually pretty good. I can hardcast Grief at some point. I could also just evoke it now and nuke their bridges. But that cost me my Dark Ritual. Alright, I'm just gonna give them another chance to attack with Gravecrawler into my Xantid Swarm. Should have made that block last turn. But I don't think that 2 for 1ing myself to clear their bridges is the way I'm going to win this game. I do need to actually get Power and Toughness into play. They've built their hand up quite a bit over the last few turns, including that Faithless Looting, so there's a good chance this Benchvine's just coming at me here. Alright. I couldn't beat the first one. Joke's on you. Alright, I'm going to block now. Let's clear out those bridges. Oh wait, no! Shit! They have Leyline! I'm such a dingus. They knew exactly what they were doing. Wow. Alright, I have made a lot of bad plays so far, which is not a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention. Let's take that altar. Okay, I mean, this is somehow a game I can win. I'm on an 8-turn clock, they're on a 7, and neither of us are doing anything else right now. Another flashback, Faithless Looting. Yeah. It's been a while since I've been the graveyard deck. The Leyline plus Bridge from Below thing. Now I just don't have Xantid Swarm in play for no reason. Supplier, hit Bloodghast, and Hogak. Hogak brings back Benchfight. Okay. Alright. Chance to compete in that game came and went. Okay, so Reverend Silence coming in. I hope all of the watchers who are still here and didn't give up on me already understand the value of induction. Like, deduction is when you already know lots of things and you can just look around and know what to do, and induction is when you absorb new information by experiencing it firsthand. I am inducing a lot of skills in this league right now. Just a lot of play patterns, because this is just not a deck I play. I have played it on Moto before, but it's just like very much not my style. If you've ever seen me play Magic, you know that's the truth. So Elish Norn is good here because it wipes out the zombie horde, keeps the Hogak stuff from happening, keeps them from getting comboed out. I don't think I want Pithing Needle on Altar of Dementia. I think that that's what Elish Norn does. And Thoughtseize versus Grief. I don't think I really need either of them. Coffin Purge. I don't think the game's going to get that slow. Archon could name black. Or Iona could name black. And that turns off basically every spell in their deck. But if I get to reanimate something, that's already happening. So, yeah, I think this is the deck I want to submit. Exhume is pretty dangerous in this matchup. I get Griselbrand, they get Hogak. So I have the Silence, but I don't have a Forest to cast it with. I have Entomb, Animate Dead, but not the second mana to do it. I'm going to mulligan this. This is basically the same problem, but I can Thoughtseize along the way. I'm going to keep this in bottom Archon. They have ley lines, so they've mulled to 6 already. So if they like Malda to some small number, put in a ley line, then get Thoughtseized, I'm a fetch land away from doing stuff. Maybe. Am I just making up excuses to play poorly? I don't know. It's possible. So Vengevine, Cabal Therapy, Bridge from Below. Things I don't want to remove from a deck for 5,000, please. I guess Cabal Therapy is the take. Yeah, if they want to sack their Dryad Arbor to flash it back, that's a deal. They didn't name Reverent Silence last game with their turn 1 therapy, which I think is the card that makes the most sense. Let's see if they know about it this game. I think that is just like easily the name. Like if you're familiar with Legacy and what this deck does. Nope, they named Reanimate again. The card that's what they named last game too, and it's the same card that already doesn't work because of Leyline. And they did in fact eat their Dryad Arbor to do that. That's a deal. I think I have to cast this Faithless Looting and try to move this game forward. I'm not going to need Thoughtseize, so I have at least one card I don't care about here. So Thoughtseize and... is it Exhume or is it Grief? It might be Grief that I get rid of, though they have kept a non-functional hand again. Dark Ritualing up into Grief is pretty cool. So Exhume is really dangerous against their deck. I'm getting rid of Grief. Gotta find that fetch land and then I can start playing this game. This is the Underground Sea we knew about. Come on, fetch land. That's the card I just got rid of. Another Underground Sea. I don't mind them drawing lands. Okay, here we go. So I can nuke the ley line, but that's the only thing that Reverend Silence does. But I mean, yeah, this is what it's in the deck for. I guess I could also just... no, I'm gonna do it. Let's go. I don't love it because they could just cast another one, and like there was some consideration to Faithless Looting before I committed to green because that's my red source. Alright, found the red. So if I draw like some monster right now, Exhume actually is exactly what I need. Alright, maybe I just have to Exhume Grief. That discards their Vengevine or their Bridge for them though. No, I'm just gonna hold on to all of this to flashback looting with next turn. Oh, Triple C does not hardcast Vengevine. That's good news. So flashback looting. Another Grief. Okay, I can hardcast that one though. So I'm gonna discard Polluted Delta and Reverent Silence. That sucks. Just missing on all those cards with the lootings, but I guess I did board out some of my monsters. Alright, so Grief, or Bridge and Vengevine are their whole hand right now, and Grief is kind of actively bad for those reasons. So they can hard cast the Vengevine anyway, so I might as well just put it in the graveyard. Yeah, get rid of it. That makes Exhume worse, but hopefully when I cast Exhume, the game ends. Oh, they found a spell. This is bad. A red card. Oh, Faithless Looting. Yeah, that's a good one. Discarding 2 bridges, 1 card left in hand over there. Is it a Leyline of the Void? Oh no, it's another looting, just to spew. So they're looking for Hogak. They didn't find it. They did find Cabal Therapy, and I think they've seen the Exhume in my hand. Have they? Is that true? They can attack with Bloodghast, but not Gravecrawler here. Oh, actually, they both nuke bridges. So, yeah, they'll have zombies back. Okay. They'll at least have to draw a land to get this thing back. But they have a bunch of zombies right away. There's always the chance they also misclick these triggers and just get 0 zombies. Yeah, they misclicked their triggers and got 0 zombies. Count it. You have to stack the exile trigger, or you stack the exile bridge trigger first, and then you reclaim, and then you resolve the make zombies trigger first, because the stack resolves top to bottom. All right, looting. I found a reanimate. I think I probably just reanimate their Vengevine and go to town. Or I could save it, though. No, we're both Hellbent. They have a Stitcher Supplier and a Bloodghast. Bloodghast will have haste. They're at 24. Do I just take their Bloodghast? My Grief doesn't do anything. I could also just hope to fade for a turn and YOLO Faithless Looting Reanimate. I think I've just fucked up. If they have like Stitcher Supplier or any zombie to turn on Gravecrawler, I just get ranched by Vengevine. I think I needed to put their Vengevine into play just to be safe. Okay, that's not a zombie. Okay. Dodged. Entomb, okay. So you're saying there's a chance. So I want to Entomb. Alright, who is the get here? Griselbrand gains a bunch of life. So does Archon. So if I get Archon, I'm at 5 after the triggers resolve. Yeah, and drawing extra cards seems pretty good here. Alright, so let's go to 5, clear out this crab. That slows them down a lot. Okay. Just gotta fade. Gotta fade. Okay, they're tapping mana. Please cast Leyline of the Void. Alright, they're Faithless Looting. A third Vengevine. Okay, I don't care about Bloodghast. The third Vengevine was actually lethal if they had any zombie they could put into play there. Also, sorry if you hear like a fuzzy background noise. It's raining really hard in the room I'm in. Don't know if the mic's picking that up or not, but that's what's happening. Alright, so this race is losable. If I attack first, I'll be at 8, which gives me, and I'll see an extra card before I loot. I think that's worth doing. So I am dead to a top deck zombie with this attack, unless the Faithless Looting does come together with something good. Okay, so I want to loot. Is there any reason to Dark Ritual first? I don't think so, because that's all just black mana, and maybe having a card in hand is going to end up being more important. Yeah, I'm going to loot here. Wasn't really looking for Reanimate, but what does it do for me? Discard Ashen Rider, and oh, if I Reanimate their Gravecrawler, I think that takes all their outs. I don't need this land. So they have one Gravecrawler in the graveyard. They're in top deck mode. Yeah, if I Reanimate Gravecrawler, they lose the ability to just fire creature spells out of their graveyard. Okay. Oh, sweet redemption. Hopefully navigating that last game picked up some of the boneheads from earlier, but we're on the board. Oh, stressful stuff. On to the next one. I'm on the draw with the most explodey busto hand I've had yet. So what I'm seeing here is Reveal Chancellor, land, Dark Ritual, Grief pitching the other Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize myself, Exhume. So I'm going to keep this. My opponent is a fan of the channel. Hi, One Ride. They're explaining in the chat that they're worried that they're not on the regular deck and they won't play that tight. Well, if you caught up on this league so far, you have nothing to worry about. All right, reveal my Chancellor. That's done. They mulled to 6. Let's see if they can beat 2 pieces of Disruption. I really hope not. Oh, I drew Griselbrand. That's so much better than the other thing I might have done. Alright, I'm going to evoke Grief first. I don't want to start my chain by getting my Dark Ritual dazed. Oh, they just have nothing. Nothing at all. I'm going to get rid of Ponder for them. And Ice Fang Coatl, I guess, could technically trade with a Griselbrand at some point, and I don't play counterspells. So... Oh, but if I cast Exhume this turn, then they get their Coatl back. Dodged it, stop screaming at the chat. I know, I saw it. Okay. So, Ponder goes away. Grief dies. Then I Writ Exhume... Or Writ Thoughtseize, Exhume, get Griselbrand. And no problems here. And this time I will pay 7 because I'm not going to get burned out with Lightning Bolt. And I get to go to discard and dump this Chancellor of the Annex, which I can Exhume next turn. So they're going to cast one of their cantrips this turn, one of their Preordains through the Chancellor bubble. Then I'm going to crack for 7 and then get another Chancellor. And probably pay 7 to try to hit them with a discard spell again. They top-bottomed. I am looking for a Grief now. Oh, that Dark Ritual is nice. That lets... The fast mana and free spells are what you're really looking for after a Griselbrand draw 7. Like, I really want to just make sure that their hand stays empty. So, should I Entomb first? So I can Dark Ritual... Entomb, Animate Dead, something else. No. So drawing 7 gives me a chance to find a discard spell before I have to make plays like this. But that also gives me the chance of drawing the card. But I still have Faithless Looting, so that doesn't actually matter. Plus 7. Let's find some discard spells. None of these are discard spells. I could go to 3 pretty safely against this deck. How many Dark Rituals do I have? 1. Just 1 Dark Ritual, 1 Animate Dead. I really don't think they're gonna Lightning Bolt me. And if they do, they deserve the win. Okay, now we're cooking. So, Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal. Can I Thoughtseize to 1? I can still Faithless Looting this turn. And find a Grief. Faithless Looting. Okay, what did I find? Alright, that's really good. I'm going to get rid of Archon and Chancellor. And then I think I want to Thoughtseize them. I don't think they're going to deal 1 damage to me. I just don't think it's going to happen. Let me make sure how many rituals I have. So, Dark Ritual. That gives me 6 mana. That is enough to Thoughtseize and Animate Dead twice. I guess if I Animate Dead first on the Chancellor, then this line is totally safe. If you're gonna force, you gotta start now. Alright, yeah, they're just packing it in. Yeah, okay. So that was the thing where you put Griselbrand into play and then just combo off. This isn't literally combo off. There are Reanimator builds that play Children of Corliss and Tendrils of Agony in them, but that's not what this does. But drawing 14 with Griselbrand, discarding your opponent's dire hand, passing the turn with 2 monsters in play is pretty close. Alright, we got ourselves a blue deck. Xantid Swarm's coming in. So, do I just assume they're Bant and bring in Reverent Silence for Rest in Peace? Is that the best practice line here? Probably. Also, respect that they... Though, if they are blue-green, they might be an Uro deck that doesn't have Rest in Peace, and I need to respect things like Surgical Extraction, or obviously this is a deck that has Endurance. So I think Xantid Swarm is where I want to be. I could bring in a Serenity, just in case, just to be careful. Though I don't think they're gonna have Soulguide Lantern is an artifact, so maybe I can bring in one of these just in case. And Grief is pretty good here, but is Exhume dangerous or Exhume great? Because Exhume, there's a good chance that they'll have an Uro in their graveyard. But Exhume plays around Surgical Extraction because it doesn't target. Like if you Exhume and you have 2 creatures in your graveyard, they have to have 2 removal spells or a way to clear your whole graveyard, rather than Animate Dead or Reanimate where they just hit your target. Also, if you cast Exhume and they activate Tormod's Crypt, you can Entomb in response and get a new monster that wasn't even there when you put the card on the stack. Alright, I'm not playing Serenity. I'm going to make them show me something before I do that. And... oh, this is tough. I'm really bad at sideboarding with this deck, if you couldn't tell. Alright, so because I have the Xantid Swarms coming in, I think that replaces the discard's function of the deck. Maybe that's wrong and crazy. Maybe I'm about to lose to a turn 0 Leyline of the Void. We'll find out together. A big part of playing this deck is knowing what every other deck's going to do against you. And as evidenced throughout this league, I only barely know what my own deck is doing. So I definitely don't know what all the sideboard levels are. That rain I mentioned a few minutes ago is now active thunderstorm, so if you hear booming, I'm sorry. Can't help it. But I am going to lead on my Xantid Swarm here. And losing the Faithless Looting's kind of shitty, but having Entomb is pretty exciting. Like, drawing the Entomb changed my priorities on Faithless Looting a lot. So now any fetch land casts Looting, and any reanimation spell gets a monster. So they can Force of Will and pay the 1 to get rid of Xantid Swarm, and you might as well, because it's Force of Will's not getting better if you let Xantid Swarm resolve. They pitched a Brainstorm. That's a high value pitch. I'm glad it's gone. Preordain. They topped their Preordain. That's terrifying. Exhume, huh? So I could grief them, pitching Dark Ritual, or I could... Wait, how do I do this? I'm 1 black mana short, or 1 black card short of doing everything I want to do, which is grief them. Oh, I could Dark Ritual hardcast grief. If I pitch grief, I could just Entomb Exhume right now also. That is a line that exists. So I think the hardcast grief dodges a lot of the things I'd be really worried about. Like, this checks their hand for Graveyard Hate while playing around Graveyard Hate, which I'm really interested in. And it presents a clock. Like, they're going to have to answer this in the next 6 turns while keeping up respect for Entomb Exhume. And if I find a red source at any point, I just get to Faithless Looting and Exhume. Grief's in there. Veil of Summer. Awkward. Oh, you're a show and tell deck. Don't like that. Oh no. Right, Ice Fang Coatl. Veil of Summer. Yeah. I'm taking the show and tell. Yikes. Okay, so they're blue-green Omni. That's what's happening right now. They did a pretty good job faking that they were banned game 1, though the Preordains should have been suspicious. Come on, red source. Alright, found a red source. They hid something on top of their deck that obviously they want access to. So I'm gonna Faithless Looting, see where it goes. Oh wow, that went good places. I'm gonna discard, I think, one of the Exhumes. I'd rather Entomb a different monster later than continue ramming onto this Chancellor. Alright, here we go. Exhume is on the stack. Maybe I should have led on Animate Dead for the reasons I described before, where I could respond to Graveyard Hate next turn by Entombing in response to Exhume. So I think mistakes were made. I was just trying to Entomb or Exhume now before they have a creature in their graveyard. Cunning Wish in response. So they're wishing for Surgical Extraction. Yeah, so I did in fact run straight into Surgical by not sequencing my card correctly. But it's okay, because my hand is Entomb Reanimate, which is still a pretty good hand. Or Entomb Animate Dead. And they just spent their Cunning Wish on doing that, which took an entire turn off the grief clock. Oh, and I still get Xantid Swarm back. Life is good. Okay, not bad. So now I have Animate Dead, Entomb, backed by Xantid Swarm for next turn, and their hand is Veil, Icefang Coatl. I feel like I'm pretty far ahead here. They're going to have to Coatl just to draw a card right now. Currently doesn't have the touch, just a 1/1. Oh, that was a great draw. Yeah, Brainstorm, tying it all together here. So I still get to cram with Xantid Swarm. So they're going to have to like pivot into comboing me out. Alright, Dark Ritual, not bad. I do plan on Griselbranding this turn. I get in for my 3 damage and trigger Xantid Swarm. They do get to just block Xantid Swarm and kill it with their creature. But that's okay because Griselbrand has no respect for any of that shit. Dark Ritual, Entomb, get the Grisfather. Do I want Griselbrand? Probably. I would like to cast more discard spells this turn. So Griselbrand, bring it back, do some stuff. Another Entomb, Reanimate. That's pretty good. But the card I would want is here. I did find Grief though, so Grief, exiling. I don't think I want to reanimate anymore. My life total's getting pretty low. So Grief, take your Veil, and I can Entomb, Exhume another thing. Archon. Yeah, Archon's pretty good. So Exhume that. I think the world knows that I'm kind of storming off right now. I'm sure you heard that thunder. It's pretty loud. That is the correct sound for the world to make when I'm doing stuff like that. So they're hellbent, and their deck needs 2 cards to do anything. Feeling pretty good? Alright, we got GG's in the chat. That was definitely the most active dumpstering we've done yet this league. Sorry, one ride. I finally got it together when we got paired. I hope you enjoyed the video and the match. I'm on the draw with a hand that rituals into Exhume, but doesn't put a creature in the graveyard, so that's a mull. Here we go. Faithless Looting. Bring me home. Oh, no. I almost did the thing. I have to bottom a card before I reveal my Chancellors. My god. Okay, almost bottomed a Chancellor instead of what I actually wanted to do. Though 2 Chancellors and 1 are pretty close to the same thing. Though on the draw, I guess that's not even true. Like, on the draw, they can't leave up Land Force of Will now. Oh, baby. Please find me Lotus Petal. Please, Lotus Petal. Show it to me. Okay, so they're just throwing a Brainstorm in the graveyard for the chance to cast Force of Will this turn. Reasonable. I hope they force this. I have another one. This is like... I guess this is like countering the Entomb. Like if you go after the Enabler. Okay, they're a Dazed deck, sure. Alright, that's not bad. If they have Wasteland, I'm in trouble. Alright, no Wasteland. But they are a Tundra Dazed deck. The rarely seen. Often wondered about. Okay, so I have a second Faithless Looting. I found the land on the first try, so good job, me. Do they also have a force? They do indeed. Bummer. Alright. Good job. They navigated the first 2 turns of the game through a double Chancellor. But Delver didn't flip. I wonder if this deck has Stoneforge Mystic in it. These old blue-white Delver Stoneforge Mystic hybrids are a thing from Legacy Past. Oh, Jeskai. They could still have Stoneforge Mystic. Yep, there it is. Alright, this is exciting. I wonder if they're going to get Cauldra complete and just bring the Ruckus. Oh, Jete. Sure. Do they already have Cauldra? Okay, so I get to flashback Looting and hope for a Lotus Petal. Come on, Looting. Here we go. Found a Lotus Petal. Basically cheating. Sign me up for cheating. I love cheating. I hope somebody clips that. Just me shouting, I love cheating. I am not going to draw 7 this time. Because then they could just put in Cauldra and ram in there, and I lose my Griselbrand for no reason. They can still ram Cauldra in, but I don't have to block it now because I'm not at 3. I can just clock this thing. Alright, so this puts me to 5, and then the next attack puts me to 12, and I can Exhume a Chancellor. I'm going to Exhume first in case they block. I'd be pretty surprised if they blocked, but I just want to make sure they don't keep their Delver. Here's Chancellor. And then here comes Grizzle. Their hand is Jitte Predict. So I do have 12 flying damage on board, which is a lethal attack in most countries. I'm really interested in their list. Like the Delver, Stoneforge Mystic, Daze, and then Predict. They are just flirting with every part of the mana curve and every part of Legacy here. I'm just going to take my medicine, go to 7, present a lethal attack on the back swing. They're going to have to chump with Delver. Then they get to put in Umezawa's Jitte and equip it to their Germ, which still does not win the race. Here come my friends. So they attack for 6 next turn, and they can gain 4. And they're going to need all 4 of those life points to stay alive on the following turn. So they can't sandbag any of them to buff Kaldra on the following turn. Really glad Batterskull isn't involved in this race. Actually, Batterskull would just be easily bricked by Chancellor, so that doesn't matter. Ooh, they did not equip. They have Swords to Plowshares. That's the only thing that makes sense there. Leave up 2 mana for that. Or they could like flash in some creature that blocks. Lightning Bolt, huh? Or they're just bolting my face. Have they done the math? Does this work? Okay, they were just hoping I got greedy and drew with Griselbrand and they could bolt and kill me. Nope. Wasn't gonna happen. Okay, so they are a Lightning Bolt deck. Good to know going into this second game. Alright, so I should assume that Rest in Peace is involved in their plan, because they're a blue-white deck that doesn't use the graveyard. It's a good time to be a Rest in Peace. I like Archon of Cruelty a lot in this matchup. I like Grief. I like Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is just a good card against Stoneforge Mystic, generally speaking. So I think I want the Serenities, because I can confirm they have artifacts. I've seen them. But I don't know how many enchantments to expect, though I will play to expect Rest in Peace. And I know I said I like Grief, but I might have been lying. I may like it less than I thought I did. If we are going to play a longer game where Serenity is involved, Grief gets a lot worse. But the hard cast ability, again, comes in. I like the Chancellors a lot, but them being a Daze deck and me being on the draw makes them a little bit worse. But I still have to keep some density of threats in play. Also, they have Delver in their deck, so like Thoughtseize you, reanimate your Delver is a real plan. Like I could actually flip that card. Alright, I'm not going to bring in all 3 Reverend Silence. I have the 2 Serenities, 1 Silence. When they show me that they have enchantments, I'll start to respect them more. Do I want Eilish Norn in the deck over one of the Chancellors or over one of the Griselbrands? I don't think so. I think Archon of Cruelty does a lot of that work in the matchup. Okay, so I have a turn 1 Entomb something. I have Dark Ritual and Chancellor. I am going to keep this. It doesn't quite turn 1, but Faithless Looting's really good. I can discard these 2 creatures in my hand. They can use Daze to set that up, but oh, okay. So if they daze my Faithless Looting, then I get to pivot onto just ramming reanimation spells. Force of Negation, Pitching Ponder. Okay, that's even better than Daze. Unless they turn around and jam Rest in Peace right now, that would hurt. But we were prepared for that. The sideboard is in the deck. Oh, just a Delver. Just a little Delver. 3 cards left in their hand. And I get to know what they are? Are you kidding? So, what do I pitch here? I could just Dark Ritual cast Grief and play the long game. That plays into Daze. Still plays into Force of Will, but it clears the Force of Will, and it puts a creature in my graveyard for Exhume. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just need... Oh, I get to pitch the Griselbrand, duh, because I'm going to Entomb for it. So, yeah, alright, never mind. I just like got tunnel visioned on Griselbrand being part of my plan because of the Faithless Looting, but that's obviously not the case anymore. Show me your secrets. Please don't have several of them. Okay, so I take Surgical. They don't have a blue card for Force. I don't have... I'm not doing the Animate Dead thing. So Dark Ritual, Entomb Exhume, Entomb for... Is there a Griselbrand left in my deck? I think so. Where is it? There it is. Entomb for Griselbrand, Exhume for Griselbrand. This is a draw 7 situation, if I ever saw one. And I can... I don't need their exile, I need their hand. They have force and that other thing. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna Faithless Looting. I could Animate Dead Grief and take the Wear Tear. Or do I want to Faithless Loot? Yeah, I think I want to loot. If I find Lotus Petal, I can do both. Alright, so I'll discard this barrage of monsters. And I'll pass the turn. Feeling pretty good about this game. Just like Caracas would be okay here. Right. They missed on their Delver Flip and took their shuffle. This is their one draw step to rule them all. They found Predict. I don't think that's going to do anything. I guess if they name it right and hit land Swords to Plowshares, they can at least remove the Griselbrand. Right, they milled a second Surgical and then conceded. All right, after a kind of a rocky start, rebounded for the winning record here. This is a 4-1 in our hearts if I just look at my life total before I activate Griselbrand in round 1, game 1. Just so fucking excited to have that card in play. All right, but yeah, here we are. Turns, we didn't play against Endurance at all. We played against one deck that was green and could have had it, but they didn't have it, and probably didn't have it, actually. Like, Show and Tell probably just doesn't play that card. But didn't play against it, and the reality is that this deck was already built with the Chancellors, the Grief, the Thoughtseize, or Unmask over Grief. And the deck was already built to check hands for turn 1 or turn 0 disruption. And Endurance is just another one of those. And it's another good one. Like, when this deck was huge, probably 2 summers ago, I would say, when Eric Landon was just the trophy leader all the time playing this deck, that was before Force of Negation. So it was like 40% that a 7-card hand had Force of Will in it. So like 60% of the time, you're just guns blazing. And the other 40% of the time, you just need to beat 1 force within any like realm of reasonableness. But now it's just like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and Endurance, plus out of the board, like Surgical Extraction, and being on the draw makes it so much worse because that opens up Daze, which is a huge part of the metagame right now. So this deck is obviously much riskier than it was 2 years ago, but we put up a 3-2 and could have been a 4-1 if I was paying attention. And that's a pretty solid result. You can still certainly do the Reanimator thing. It's just less reliable. As far as Grief goes, there was one game where if it was Unmask, I could have put a creature into play, but I can't Grief myself, so I didn't get to do it. There were other games where I hardcast this beastie in the mid game, and it was just a 3-2 that got busy. So there is some push and pull like we expected, and you'll have to play a lot more than 5 matches before you even out what the correct split of these cards is. But it was fun to get to play with Grief. It was really hyped in the spoiler season. It's the first time I got to play with it. Archon of Cruelty, really into that. Just a non-legendary thing, something that gains life immediately. Like, not even like Griselbrand, which gains life next turn. But if, like, the turn that we reanimated this at 10 life went to 2, immediately went back up to 5. If we reanimated Griselbrand in that spot, we would have just died to Bolt. So being able to gain life right away, impact the board right away, also just raw card advantage right away that doesn't cost life to do. I really like Archon of Cruelty. This was a big printing. They were basically just trying to put a fatty worth reanimating into Modern, and this one also checks the boxes in Legacy. So that's my league with Black-Red Reanimator in 2021, post Modern Horizons 2, with Endurance in the format. Never came up, never worried about it. A lot of tight lines. Some I missed, some I found. Like, I warmed up around round 3. We figured it out. But thank you for Chris for asking me to play this deck. Remember, if you want me to play your deck, check me out on Patreon. The links are in the video description. If you want to berate me for my bad plays or compliment me for my good ones or point out ones I didn't see at all, please go to the comment section below and like and subscribe the channel while you're here, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next video.